Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to wait till about 5:35, 5:36 to get everything started, to give people a chance to log in, and then we'll go from there. So thank you for everybody who's able to log in early. We'll wait till about 5:35, 5:36 before we begin our procedure. So thank you.
Hello, my name is Kingsley. I'm the Spanish interpreter. I have a question. How the meeting is going to go? So how is that going to work?
So you will go into a specific breakout room, and if those individuals show up, then you will you'll translate for them, and you will enter their information into the Google Doc. You should have got a link to that. And then you'll report out your conversation, a summary of your conversation back to the large group once you're done.
Let me check that because I don't think I received any document.
If not, I can send it to you.
So Misty, if it's okay with you, I'll go ahead and get started. Is that all right?
Yep, go ahead.
All right. Good evening, everybody.
I didn't receive any email about that, about the break room, sorry. I just got your link for the document, and there was no instruction. So what was?
Ms. Giles, thank you. Good evening, everybody. And thank you for coming out tonight for the Region 3 Facilities Master's Plan meeting. I'd like to welcome all of the parents, the students, the staff members, the administrators, all of the support staff who were able to come out tonight. But before we begin tonight's conversation, we felt it was important to acknowledge the tragic deaths of 2 Columbus City School students who were killed yesterday. The last 24 hours in our city have been challenging and been very painful. We want to acknowledge and validate that experience. We're aware of the weight that it is placing on you and that you may be carrying to tonight's meeting. And we want you to know that, we're struggling with it too. We had a meeting this morning with all of the executive directors and leadership, And we just spent, about an hour to an hour and a half just processing this situation. But as a result of it, before we get started, I ask that we all take a moment of silence to honor our students, Micaiah Bryant and Trayvon Dixon. So I'd ask for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. My name is Dr. Sandy Womack Jr. I'm the Regional Superintendent for Area 3. And with that, I will turn this over to our co-chairs. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Womack, and good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I actually see a lot of familiar faces here in the Zoom room, but also quite a few new ones. So I'm very grateful that you've made time to be with us this evening. My name is Mike Alcock, and I am the volunteer co-chair for Region 3 of the Columbus City Schools Facilities Master Planning Committee. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'd also like to take a moment and introduce my fellow volunteer co-chairs for Region 3 who are here with us this evening. Julia Lynn Walker, and if you could just wave really quick so folks can see where you're at.
Actually, Julia Lynn is here, but she's unable to screen share due to some malfunction. So I'm sure you'll bear with me this evening.
Absolutely. Thank you, Julia Lynn. As well as our family ambassador, Lavina Meeks. Lavina, can you wave really quick?
Hello, everyone.
Great. And finally, our student lead, Cecily Wanjema. Cecily, can you wave really quick? Thank you so much. Our role here tonight is to help facilitate this conversation and take you through the agenda for the evening. We ask that you please keep your cameras turned on for the entirety of our meeting this evening. But that being said, we also ask that you keep your microphones on mute until we get to the discussion portion when we'll be going into breakout rooms to have more intimate conversations. If you do have a question though, please note that using the chat function in Zoom early and often. The other regional volunteers tonight will assist to ensure that you are heard and that those questions and comments are captured. We will acknowledge when we don't have an answer to a question that you're asking in the chat. So we'll make sure that if there's something that you want to know or are curious about and we don't know, we'll find a way to follow up so that you can get that addressed. I'd like
Mike,
to ask, yes.
This is Carol. First, just a quick second. Is there any way we can get whoever's Misty or somebody to make it so that we're in Hollywood Square format so we can see each other? Or is it just me who's just seeing a slide and not everybody else?
Mrs. Beckley, if you click on your view at the top right corner where it says view, it should give you about 3 different options that would allow you to see a variety of different things on the screen.
Yeah,
Top
no,
right-hand corner.
Okay, I got it. I'm just still seeing the screen. I can't see Mike, but that's all right. Maybe it's just my user error. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No worries at all. I certainly want us to be able to talk as much as possible as though we were doing this safely, socially distanced in person, but the Zoom does have some limitations. So I appreciate that, Carol. I'd like to ask everyone tonight to please help us exercise a little bit of grace. Kind of following up on Dr. Womack's comments, we do want to make sure that everyone is heard tonight, and rest assured, everyone will have an opportunity to voice your opinion, questions, concerns, and feedback this evening that you've brought to share. But please help us as much as possible to remain positive. We know that this year, and certainly the last 24 hours in particular, have been stressful. And sometimes conversations around facilities and the planning for the future can also be stressful. But we are going to remain positive and constructive as much as possible here tonight. So when we don't have answers, as I mentioned, we will certainly acknowledge that. All of the questions in the chat will be documented. Our wonderful student lead, Cecily, will be taking care of that. Those questions and comments will be addressed by district staff at a later point and also compiled into a full FAQ document. Tonight, we have representation here from Leggett Architects, who is the planning consultant to assist in this facilities master planning process. And now Leggett will introduce 2 videos that we have for you this evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alcock. I appreciate the opportunity. Again, my name is Dennis Pabin. I'm an architect with Leggett Architects, and at the very least, I can say how proud I am to help you facilitate, and the co-chairs, family ambassadors, and students help facilitate your master plan. Misty, with that, we have 2 videos that we are going to be showing. I will stop sharing my screen, and after the videos, we will come back to the presentation.
You know, I'm as a educator of over 30 years, it concerns me when I see that, or at least what I believe is we have communities that have become disengaged from their schools. And I just believe that our schools are a key element of any community and a key kind of bedrock of communities. And so I believe that we've got to better engage and more meaningfully engage our communities back into how we're thinking about our students and how we're thinking about the design of our schools. I've had experiences where I engage the communities in thinking about, what is it we want, in knowing that this is a rapidly changing world, interconnected, global, rapidly changing world. What do we want for our children? And these schools are the community schools. They're not Karen schools. And so how do we invigorate and excite people around what's going on in that school down the street? And how do we engage them in new and different ways? And I think if we can reinvigorate, reconnect our communities back to our schools, it will make our schools better and ultimately create better conditions and better outcomes for our kids.
Thank you, Dennis. We also have Columbus Board of Education member Carol Beckerly, who is here with us this evening, and as well as you heard at the top of the meeting, Columbus City Schools Region 3 Area Superintendent, Dr. Sandy Womack Jr. And I'm pleased right now to introduce Board Member Beckerly.
Hello, everyone. I just want to say thank you all for participating this evening. We are incredibly excited about this process that's centering our facilities master plan efforts around the community and community feedback. This is going to be the first of a series of conversations that we're having, and we want the community to participate in every step along the way. I think that all of our concerns about recent events make it more imperative that we come up with the best possible facilities plan for our students for the 21st century so that they have every possibility of reaching their potential. It's more important than ever. Thank you. And with that, we'll go back to Dr. Womack.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for this opportunity to come out and speak to the constituents, staff members, board members, as well as parents and community. Schools are often the center of the community, and they are a hub for families as well as students, as well as community involvement. And we're very thankful to have some very beautiful buildings within our region. In Region 3, we have 3 high schools, 2 middle schools, and 14 elementary schools. And I'm pleased to be able to serve the Columbus City Schools community, especially in Region 3, with a wealth of veteran principals, some outstanding students, and some outstanding programs. I'm pleased that you're able to be here tonight in order to provide your input because as my uncle once told me, if you're not sitting at the table, you often end up on the plate. So therefore, your input and your feedback in regards to what we need to do is definitely needed today. So thank you for coming out tonight. You could have been anywhere, especially with everything that's going on right now. A lot of people's hearts are heavy, but thank you for persevering and your tenacity to stay through with this. So thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Beckerly and Dr. Womack. I appreciate the words. And again, on behalf of everyone at Leggett and the entire Leggett team, our hearts are heavy with you. So if there are any resources that we can be outside of facilities, please do not hesitate to contact us. With that, we do have quite a sizable team that will be embarking with you on the course of your facility master plan. We have a customizable 5-step process that we will be going through over the course of the next several months. The first steps, which we are entering today, we are calling the gather phase. And it was first of 3, which we consider problem defining. And then after the summer, we will take the information that we gather from our first series of conversations, and then we will be what we call problem solving. And during all of these phases, it's the job of Leggett Architects and our team to help facilitate your process, your project, and your plan. We are simply here to help you, guide you along the way. Of course, we will insert our expertise when asked, but our job is to make sure you embrace the plan as if it is your own. Step 1 is the gather phase. You can see that we have several different areas of data to gather for this, so we have an understanding of the culture, the life, the history, and the present conditions of Columbus City Schools. And you can see in the highlighted portion, our job is we are observing the schools currently, granted right now with the social environment, the COVID environment that we are in, we are being a little more hesitant, especially with school back in session. We do not want to interrupt everything, but this summer when students are out, we're going to have some opportunities to talk to how those facilities are used. And then of course, surveying the stakeholders. And that's part of what you are all contributing to tonight, is understanding the life and the culture, what is right, what is wrong within Columbus City Schools, and where we can see what is working and what is not working. There is a long history of Columbus City Schools master plans. And in 2002, there was a comprehensive master plan. There are, pardon me, I have to move. So within the segments of the previous master plan, that we've now decided that there are several other different diverse and components that we need to look into with future learning and how students are learning and how teachers are teaching. So this is a comprehensive plan, top to bottom. Some have asked questions of what did we do in previous years? Those plans were set for specific buildings at a specific time for a specific scope. This is trying to understand the entire school district by region from beginning to end, top to bottom. So this truly is a comprehensive plan. So what will we be doing with these conversations today? We do have a committee that we have our co-chairs that introduce themselves today, that we will be participating in. We'll be taking these conversations, having our own meetings to facilitate on how we take these conversations and move them forward. So this is a process of which it's not information stopping and then new information starting. We are taking all of this information and moving it forward for every step of the process. We've opened up the opportunity for everyone within the community to participate. These community conversations, we want to have as much information as we possibly can from every point of view and every perspective. And then as far as the master plan chairs, you can see that we take those organizations, we're funneling into the folks, and then we have the folks, the chairs, our student ambassadors and our family ambassadors, and representing that information as one region. And then we do have a chair committee that helps organize all of the regions, and then we come up with a plan holistically as we are moving forward. So we had everyone have a chance to introduce themselves. I myself am one of the planning consultant reps, and then we also have the functions of our breakout rooms. And as Mr. Alcock talked about in our previous sessions as we were planning for this, if we were in one big gymnasium, what would we be doing? And that we would have a meeting host, we would separate into groups, we would have a more intimate conversation amongst ourselves. And then we would come back and talk to the group at large of what our discussions were. We're trying to make it an easier opportunity for every voice to be heard. So we have, as we know, in our social distance and safe environment, this is the avenue of which we have to use. I believe everyone was assigned a specific break room. And so those numbers will come up. And then as far as the schedule, we have our gather presentations this week. In May, we'll have our envision sessions, and then our define, which is more of a program we'll be talking about in June. And in each of those steps, we will be providing more information in the survey portions that we've issued for the gather phase, and then all of these will be explained in more detail as we come up, so we have fruitful conversations. We know what we're talking about. But just to give you an idea of what's coming up in the next couple months. And so here we are. We are this is our second evening. We had Region 5 and Region 2 on Monday. Today is Region 3 and 4, and tomorrow is Regions 5 and 6. So we are providing the same opportunities for all regions, and we're really excited about all the different feedback we can get to really understand where we are in Columbus schools. So with that, I will turn it back to Mike. Any questions for me before we go into the breakout sessions about the process as a whole? Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity, and don't hesitate to ask if should you need to.
Thank you so much, Dennis. Just to reiterate, the gather phase of this process leaves absolutely nothing from discussion. So when thinking about the future of Columbus City schools, try not to just think about, standardized curriculum, teaching and learning, but, additionally, other aspects of a school and how they relate to equity, diversity, social and emotional well-being within our communities. Nothing is off limits for discussion during this phase. There's no wrong topics to address. Simply put, to really boil it down, what is working and what is not working. So thinking about that as we head into our breakout rooms here in a moment, that's I think a helpful way to initially frame these discussions. So with that, our Zoom moderator will organize us into breakout rooms for a more intimate conversation. When you receive this Zoom link, hopefully you were all given a specific breakout room assignment. I know several of you have checked in with me directly that you did not receive that, so we'll make sure that we get you set up in a breakout room so you can participate in one of those discussions. But for everyone who does know your assignment, once those rooms are opened, along the bottom of your Zoom, please select the room when that option pops up. Each group, this is really important. Each group will have 3 roles to determine up front to kick off your discussion. We're looking for a champion, a scribe, and a reporter. And then after your 30 minutes in your breakout room discussion, we will all come back together and report to the group at large. And just quickly, I want to outline those 3 roles I mentioned. So the champion in your group should be making sure that everyone has an equal opportunity to participate and ensure that their voice is heard and their perspective is shared. The scribe will take notes and help compile the feedback on the Google Doc assigned to your room. And Misty, if you can maybe touch on that, that would be great. And then the reporter will be the person who does the reporting back out when we rejoin as a full group at the end of this breakout room session.
All right, so the rooms are open now. So if you look down at the bottom, you should be able to click breakout rooms and then just click the number that you were assigned. If you weren't assigned a room, just hang on and I will assign you to a room.
Say good evening. Is everyone back? Let me see. Misty? Okay, fine. So welcome back. I am Julia Lynn Walker, your meeting co-host, and I've been able to dip in and out of the various groups in the breakout rooms, and the information was very exciting. Unfortunately, I've not been able to fix my technology, so you are not able to see me, and I am showing the photo, but I am here. But let's focus on you, and let's hear what you discussed in these various groups. Unfortunately, and I know there was a lot of very rich information, we really only have 1 to 2 minutes per group. Afterwards, our family ambassador will perhaps look through some of the forums and see if there's some points that could also be shared. But if we could have now the feedback from the groups, and we'll just go down numerically, starting with group 1 and ending with 18. So group 1, please give us very quickly, succinctly, your feedback.
Cecily, would you like to lead that?
Yes, how's it? Okay. Feedback for in school learning as of COVID is that being in the classroom really helps the students. Being able to see the student, the other peers, and as well as their teacher. Making a connection with somebody after school is a great way to make sure that you feel a part of your community and a part of your school. I'm coming out short-minded real quick.
That's okay. Especially you also mentioned about being the sports, the bonding, the awards, the ceremonies, and also seeing those signs for people who may honor roll in your neighborhood, other students at the school. Those were a couple of things that I took off of my notes.
Okay.
Yes.
Any barriers?
Barriers as of COVID, a lot of people have been having different situations because of the pandemic, but being able to be in school is a lot easier for most students, being able to learn in person. So not many barriers as of blended learning.
Okay, thank you very much. Group 2.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lucas Jack. I'm the principal of Marion Franklin High School, and I could honestly talk about this forever. So I'm starting my timer right now, and I will be very quick. Nice for everybody to be here. Thank you. We talked about the positives of our schools are that they are safe. We also talked about our staff and our students with their flexibility and abilities to work around some of the barriers that are there has been wonderful. Some of the barriers we discussed is the general appeal. I did share a short story on my drive to school. I drive down Feder Road, and one side of that street goes to Hilliard Bradley High School. The other side of that street goes to West High School, who I was lucky enough to be the principal there for a while. And for a 14-year-old to walk into Hilliard Bradley High School versus the back door of West High School, that sends a message to that child. And to pretend as if that's not significant is quite honestly ignorant. That being said, let me move on to some of the barriers. We talked about the general appeal. We spent some time on that. We talked about the inconsistencies in the facilities in terms of HVAC still being an issue in 2021 in some of our buildings. We talked about the sports facilities and the playgrounds not being as well as they could be. We talked about a significant time about academics and the lack of common space and the spaces for innovation. If a child would go to a place to think creatively, that would probably be a place like a library or maybe a shopping mall. But our buildings still look like straight hallways, square classrooms, and really don't foster the creativity that our students need for 21st century learning. So,
okay, thank you, Group 2. Group 3.
I am Rushiana Pate, and we had 3 different schools represented in our breakout room. Aspects that are working, academic rigor, CCP courses, AP courses, advanced courses the health sciences throughout the feeder pattern, the history, the location with Ohio State University Hospital being in the backyard of Columbus East High School, newer facility, students willing to learn, the relationships with students at our 712 school in the region, community partnerships, City Year being one of those partnerships at one of our elementary schools, some barriers, open enrollment, losing students in our immediate communities. Many of our families have been displaced, the loss of diversity, attendance issues, especially in the pandemic, overcrowding in one of our high schools, with there being 35 plus kids in the classes, equity in funding, some schools having smart boards, others do not, or even some classrooms having printers and others do not.
Good. Thank you very much, Rochelle. Group 5. Group 5, do we have someone? Okay, give you some time to think. Group 7. Group 7, do you have a scribe? We'll come back to you. Group 8.
Hi, my name is Phyllis Flood, and I was only in the breakout with another lady, a teacher. She is actually at a high school. I'm at an elementary school. And so we talked about the pros being, that we figure out a way to make it work. We've used what we have, we improvise, and we meet the children where they are, and we do the things we need to do to get them moving. On the other side of that, and I guess that's what did you call it? It's not negative. What's the word you used?
Challenges.
The challenges is that it feels like at a different level, decisions are made about changes, and we have to then quickly adapt to them. And so we figure out a way to do that, and then more changes come. And we get that adjusted, and then more changes come. And so when we think about the video that we watched, we talked about, the fact that we need to have more options available for students other than just graduating high school and going to college, because we've got some places where kids can do specialized things, but not enough of those. And then pushing that back, we need to start earlier talking to kids about what the different options are. We also talked about that with all that children have been through in the last year and a half, we really need to stop and think about what we are doing or what we are even considering making changes to or making adjustments to, and let everybody get their feet back on some relevance or some semblance of solid ground. So that's pretty much what we talked about. We did not do a
Thank you,
form.
Phyllis.
Thank you.
That's fine. Group 10.
Hi, I'm Anna Dare from Eastgate. My group, pretty much all the positives have been covered. We know that technology is great. We have good technology, but we would like to see it updated more frequently and repaired easily. And we especially would like to see new printers in the buildings, perhaps even color. We have an office area that was a barrier. Evidently, it's a lot of glass. This is Trevitt. If you've been there, I haven't been there for a while, but you can, from outside, you can see inside, and you can even see if the principal's there or not. And if an irate parent had a problem, it could be a bad scene there, if that makes sense. We talked about the fire doors need to be, they just seemed a little dangerous. People can get stuck in between the fire doors, and it's possible they could close on someone's body part. Like air conditioning in all of our buildings, yes. And more restrooms for the children and the teachers.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on to group 11.
Hey, Rodney, I'm going to take a minute, okay?
Okay.
So Rodney and I were together. So some of the positives is that our school, Seabird Elementary, was a kind of a community hub. We're integrated. We have a great staff. Some of the negatives or your challenging things is, why are we doing this now with all the stress we have on our shoulders? Why aren't we thinking about the children's mental health above this facilities plan? Redlining and why parents choose the schools they choose, and segregation. Go ahead, your turn.
Okay, thank you very much.
Wait, he's got something to say. That's why.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, go ahead.
I'm not sure that I have something to say, but I think, Rebecca and I talked, two things I think come out of that conversation. One is the tension between having schools of choice and having neighborhood schools, and can we really do both of those well? If we're talking about having strong neighborhoods, and how can we have strong neighborhood schools when we're possibly moving students out of those for choice? And is there a competition to that? The second part of that, which is a corollary, is are our schools more segregated now than they were in the 1980s when we did DSEG? And so something that we need to really dig deeper into, to look at that, not at a qualitative level or anecdotal level, but should we be looking at what this looks like? Because if schools are a reflection of our neighborhoods, we know our neighborhoods are redlined, especially in Central City. What do we need to do differently to look at both facilities and boundaries and how we allocate those things and resources to go with that?
All right, thank you, group 11. Group 12.
Hey, Julia Lynn, I don't mean to cut in. It looks like group 5 might be ready. If we wanted to bounce
I'll
back
come
to
back to them
Okay.
when I've gone through.
Sounds
Group
good.
12.
Terrence Garr from Livingston. There were two of us in our group, and one of the positives that came out of our discussion was that we had the relationships that we build between our kids, and not only between our kids and our staff, but also those people, support people who come in. I was talking with one of the PT supervisors, and how when other people come in, they also build strong relationships. And then a barrier is that we don't have the environment, such as people have mentioned before, the AVAC systems, and also there's not consistency across the schools for access to resources. They're not always the same. So those were some of the things we talked about.
Thank you very much, Terrence.
You're welcome.
May we go now to group 13.
Hello, Amy Arnold. So our pros were smaller community, ESL unit is strong, collaboration between staff as well as families and community. The relationships that go along with that collaboration between staff, families, and community. As far as district-wide, the PLP contact log provides easy access to information that has been shared with families and parents. Strong technology available at our buildings. There was not really only one building represented, but and then vertical alignment. Some areas of concern was district-wide training and SEL trauma training for all staff of Columbus City Schools and implemented in every grade and every building, as well as continual ongoing technology training, because it's always changing and we need to be up to date to be competitive. All district documents translated into all languages available to all staff members. Smaller class sizes, more tutors available. And then another concern is the lack of connection with the top of the district down to the bottom of the district from teachers, staff, and school and families.
Okay, good. Thank you very much, group 13. Now we're going to jump to group 16. Do we have a scribe for 16?
Yes, that would be me. I'm Deborah Archer-Wilkerson, principal at Seabird Elementary School. And so some of our positives, and Tian, help me if I missed something. So some of our positives were that because I'm at Seabird, we are a very diverse school. We do have a plethora of technology that we expose our students to. And then we are strong on our relationships with our staff, students, and parents. Some of the barriers that I know Tien indicated at her building were the heating and cooling. So her building is lacking in that area. She also indicated that there were pipes and things that were exposed where students could possibly get burned and hurt by this exposure. We also felt like the lack of equitable technology across the board for all schools, even though my school has the technology, we felt the PD, lack of meaningful PD, such as what we're going through currently, trauma needing to be a high focus, as well as Tien brought up the fact that she does not receive the PD that she needs to receive being a special ed teacher. We also discussed lack of support with the language, because I am a school that is very diverse. Having that support, that language support to be able to communicate with our students and parents. And then I think the last thing that we discussed, which was a question that was brought up, and we both kind of shied away from this, but then came back around and decided to go ahead and ask it. And we thought, with the gathering of all this information, will this result in possible school closures? And that was our question that we put out there. So that was group 16.
All right, thank you, Deborah. Group 17, are you ready?
I am ready. I am Brandy Bronston Houp. I work in capital improvements. Some of the successes that we noted in my breakout group were continuum of services for students with IEP, nationwide children at multiple schools, Champion Middle School, like they're linked with a lot of services specifically. Some of the barriers, open enrollment and feeder patterns, school closures, with the pandemic, equal access, especially during the shutdown. Not all students may have had equal access to devices or to internet access. Not every building has all the positive services that I noted in our successes. Lack of transportation, and people don't have access to the schools, but that's all we talked about.
Very thoughtful, thank you. Group 18.
Hi, I am Margaret Allen. I'm at the LI at Siebert. Some of the positives that we had were, of course, already mentioned, some that we had that no one else had. We mentioned that the support for students with disabilities was awesome this year, where there are 3 adults in the classroom to support students instead of just 2. Having pre-K in the building was a huge support to start that early learning for students. Some stuff that was not mentioned for barriers that we had. Let's see. So consideration that not all buildings are equitable when it comes to class sizes, not just student numbers, but actual classroom sizes, and numbers being considered not the same across the board, but per building. What else? I think that might be one that hadn't been mentioned, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Margaret, and thank you for editing yourself. All right, let's go back now and group 5 and 7. Group 5, are you ready?
Yes, thank you, Julia Lynn. My name is Jason Reese. I'm a parent of 3 kids at Siebert Elementary. In our group, our discussion really revolved around concerns that kind of what really attracts us to Siebert are those values represented and how buildings are going to be assessed. We talked about the fact that the climate and the culture that's been fostered and created by the leadership and the teaching faculty at Siebert is really what draws us there, as well as its diversity. And so while building facilities are important, we'd love to see upgrades. We don't want to see, we really don't want to see our school closed without a true representation or recognition of what is so important to that school from the perspective of parents. I guess the last comment to make is that our school sits on valuable real estate close to German Village. Also concerns that the potential marketability of the land is actually going to influence outcomes in this planning process in a way that it should not. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Group 7. Is there anyone for speaking for group 7? All right. Is there any group that I did not call who would like to provide feedback? All right, well, thank you very much. We will come back to you. But in the meantime, let us see if the family ambassador has identified anything that she thinks should be reported as well. This is Lavinia Meeks. Lavinia, have you had a chance to review the Google Forms?
Ms. Meeks, you're on mute.
Okay. Lavinia, have you unmuted?
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that. I couldn't unmute myself. No, looking at most of the responses that were submitted and the ones that people are still submitting, most of the groups basically talked about what was on their forms, and a lot of them kind of touched a similar basis with one another. I definitely took some questions, or I took some comments from those forms to add or to bring to the master's facility, their plan, so that they can be reviewed and further looked into. But I really think that everyone did a great job at explaining, or basically talking about what their concerns and what their comments were about their school buildings and their communities. So just overall looking at both, all the comments and what everyone brought to the conversation this evening, a lot of people talked about some pretty valuable points. So thank you for the opportunity for me just to share briefly over what I just viewed, but I am continuously now still looking at some of those responses. So, but for the foremost, everyone's basically explained very well about what their concerns were. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And so we'll go back to Misty and our slides. And we do want to thank everyone for the thoughts and ideas and contributions that you made tonight. It was very interesting to hear the feedback, because there were both very specific, concrete issues that people were concerned about, as well as some intangibles that really sit in how we relate as individuals and as groups, and how we share resources within the society. So we really thank you very much for presenting these ideas and thoughts. And all of this information, as I mentioned, as I went through some of the groups, all the information will be presented in all of it will be incorporated into the conceptual thinking behind the master plan. So some of the specifics that you raise may not be addressed immediately, but certainly all of this will come to bear in the processing overall. So the comments from tonight, along with the comments from the community conversations in the other 5 planning regions, will be reviewed by the Facility Planning Committee that will be meeting over the next 2 months. This review process will lead to, in the future, looking at some of the questions that have come up in the surveys and the discussion points to extend the discussion within these community meetings. We do hope that you've enjoyed the evening tonight, you found it productive, and it will encourage you to not only attend on Wednesday the 28th, but also to bring someone else with you. So tune in virtually, as the meeting will be live streamed on the district Facebook and YouTube page. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for taking time to share with us today. You may look for a new survey for the Envision phase, which begins in early May. We will all, I'm sure, I know I do, will look forward to our next community discussion in May. Again, your input is greatly appreciated by all of us involved in this process. Good night, and we look forward to seeing you in May.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for being able to come out tonight. Definitely thank you for the facilitators and the regional leaders. We appreciate you. Thank you,
Yes.
everybody.
Thank you so much.